Our Father in heaven, we thank you for this opportunity to adjourn here and to discuss the matters of Washington City. We're grateful for this beautiful city that we live in, for the people that live here, that work here, and that are raising their families. We ask you to be mindful of them and bless them according to what they need and what they desire. We ask you to bless us as we make decisions this night, that we would make those that are right and correct and pleasing in thy sight and pleasing for the benefit of our city. We thank you for these good council members who take the time out of their lives to be here and to make those hard decisions at times. Bless them. Bless our city leaders, our staff, and all those who make this city run it in the good manner that it is running. We thank you for that and offer this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Please stand and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let me get my glasses on. Kind of borrow this for a second. Okay, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. There was nothing to add or delete, so I would entertain a motion to approve this agenda.
I move that the council approve the agenda as listed and posted for tonight's meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Granger, aye.
Segmiller, aye.
Dyson, aye.
Elliston, aye.
Thank you. I failed to excuse Councilman Turek. He is out of town at this time. Item 2, announcements. Anything to announce? We need to make public at this time. If not, we'll move on to declaration of abstentions and conflicts. Anything to declare at this time? Okay, if not, our consent agenda, approval of the minutes from the city council meetings of 6/7, 16, 6/8, 16.
I move approval of the minutes from 6/7 and 6/8, 16.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Councilman Belson.
Elliston, aye.
Dyson, aye.
Segmiller, aye.
Granger, aye.
Thank you very much. Okay, preliminary plat, item 5, consideration to approve the preliminary plat for the Silverado Townhomes located approximately 190 West, 300 North, applicant Jim Price. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. And unfortunately, it's going to be upside down tonight. So just imagine yourselves looking from the freeway south. Will be the best way to handle that. The applicant's requesting approval, as stated, the preliminary plat for the Silverado Townhomes. The applicant is proposing a subdivision containing 8 lots, and the area of coverage is 0.96 acres. The zoning designation at this particular location is a PUD that the city approved here in the past few months. The request meets the requirements as stated in the PUD approval and the subdivision requirements and other city ordinances as it relates to this location. Staff reviewed the request and recommends approval with conditions of the preliminary plat. The Planning Commission reviewed the request at their June 1st meeting, and the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the preliminary plat for the Silverado Townhomes PUD subdivision to the City Council, of course, based on the findings and subject to the conditions. And there are no extra other than our standard 12 conditions that are on our preliminary plat. So with that said, I'll be more than glad to answer any questions that the City Council might have on this side.
Drew, can you clarify for me, just the only map I saw was the one you have there. Is that 8 units or is there more than 1 unit in each of those?
They're just a 2-story townhome, 4 of them on each side of the driveway. Yep, and then there are the double hashed areas where the crossing is, those are driveways that go into a single car garage.
Well, I guess you can't point from there. So I see the double hatched, and then there's just the single hatched. What's the difference between those two types of spaces that front the street?
So the double hashed areas are limited common area, and the single hashed areas are private owned.
So the private owned is a driveway,
No, the driveways actually, they might,
the double hatched.
It's a limited common.
yeah, sorry, because it is upside down.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
still trying to,
Let's see if we can.
there it is right there. Hatched area,
Limited common area is double hatched.
which would be the mutual parking.
Yes. Well, no.
Says, how do you
Typically, it's
control
the-
that?
And typically, it's for that unit designated use only. Yeah.
Is it a planter space? Is it a parking? What's the usage there?
No, the double hash, which is limited common area, is always generally a driveway, which means it's their driveway. That's why the limited tag is put to it. But it's not full common area for everybody to use it.
Back patios are like that also in these kind of complexes.
How often do we do a PUD with only 8 units in it?
Well, there's a little history behind this particular item, and I think it
If you recall,
predated.
the
I'll
ordinance
let-
I read, it was part of what it says is that it's not meant to carve out small spaces, but then it also says, but it can be used when
for infill of
circumstances-
difficult
Yeah,
properties.
circumstances justify.
Yeah, the reason I asked the question is wanting to be sure that it's sufficiently large enough that they are going to take care of those detention areas and those common areas and keep it, but mowed and cleaned up when there are only 8 families contributing to that effort.
Usually why they'll pay fees that are associated, and so it'll actually probably be contracted out to professionals. But let me just fill in a little history why this went to a PUD. It actually originally, as some of the council members that have been on for a while, was proposed, the applicants came in with an R3 zone. It was still going to be townhomes just like you see now, but with the R3, we're not able to see the elevations at that time or have any other, really know if recreation is going to be there part of it. So the council said they weren't happy with approving an R3, but they would consider a PUD if the applicant wanted to come back at a later date. So the applicant took that information, came back a couple months later with a PUD, and they showed all the elevations, the colors of the buildings, the roofing, all of that, and the council approved that PUD at that time. To really get to the heart of your question, PUDs could be anywhere from 2 dwelling units to hundreds of dwelling units, just depending on what the proposal and the land area is, and maybe even the particular location. And for this one, it became a locational issue, is why the best use on this particular property, instead of trying to break it up into R16 lots, they do have a situation over here on the west side of the property that's been a known, I guess the best way to explain it from some of the ones who've lived their whole lives, has kind of been a swampy area, probably since most of these gentlemen have been raised here. And it's part of a drainage that comes from the freeway, things like that. So all said and done, is especially staff's looked at it, is the best suited use for the property. There is a trailer park on the east side that's elevated above. I'm sure you've been out and seen that. And so putting all things together, it kind of ended up being what it is today. So they're just coming in, getting the platting done for those. Now I will tell you a little, and I hope Mr. Price is okay. He's told me and others, but they plan on, there's going to be 2 partners in this, and they both plan on keeping ownership of 4 each and renting them, right now. So they'll be, at least for the most part, I'm good in still saying that, Jim? Well, things might change a little bit, but
That was mentioned when this was
Yeah.
before council for the PUD, so.
yeah, that their intent is to try to hold on to those. So that gives even a little bit more,
Responsibility.
responsibility on that they'll do that. Not that we're going to go after them, but I'm if I'm holding it as a rental, trying to make it, an investment for me, I'm probably going to make sure that it looks as best it can so I can keep renters all the time. So
Maybe.
opening what up? Oh, did you? Oh, ta-da.
Maybe another.
Tara saved the day, and there we go.
I have another question, Drew, on the cross hatching, and now I'm confused because that's reverse of the one I'm looking at, but we'll figure it out. So what is now the right side? And because I'm disoriented, I'm not sure if it's the east or west side.
Well, I think what have happened, I'll have Carl luckily is here. I just peeked back there, and I may have the engineer come up. That double hatching might have been in there because of that easement that you can see.
Yeah,
There's
so
those double
one
lines.
side of it's double hashed across the front everywhere. And then the other side's got
Yeah.
double hashed, which is probably driveways, and then it looks like a single hash, which may be a planter.
Yeah,
or
I think the
something.
ones on the left are more appropriate to what. But I'm going to have Carl come up and explain his drawing.
The single hatch is where the garage is going to go. And the reason for that, for the limited common, is so that their ownerships of that piece, so that they have access to their piece. If you did a double hatch, then you're blocking your access to your building. So that's the reason you do that.
So that'll be a detached garage.
No, it's not detached.
It'll be
That's
attached
just, that's just
garage.
a slab of concrete in the front.
Okay.
That's your
So there'll be like
driveway.
a
Then, where you see the L13 there on the left side of the,
Mhm.
okay, so go all the way to the building, then the building, that's where your garage is. So that,
Is this the driveway, Carl?
yeah, that's your driveway, and then
This area then is landscape.
that's landscape, exactly. And then you go up above, in the middle, it's landscape.
This is the driveway, driveway, this is just landscape. So
So on the right side now, there's all.
Wait, did I get that right, Jim? I just wanted to make sure, because it's been a while. It's been like 2 months since.
So the right side has all double
Did that.
hatching. So the right side has all landscaping. So there's no single hatching there.
Oh, that probably just misprint. It should be the single hatch. Exactly. Oh, no. You know why it's that way there? No, I'll tell you why.
it's there.
Because you've got that drainage underneath it.
Irrigation drainage.
Lester wanted access for utility and drainage
And
easement
then we
as
got to
well.
keep it that way for that irrigation. You need to see that IRR. It comes down and it goes right down that side of the street.
So will the use be different there, or are we simply just making it?
We're just making it so that it's like public access, so that it's an easement that's going to be already in through
It's
there.
common area,
We
yeah.
just can't make it limited common.
So there'll be parking uses in that space as well.
Yes,
So the concept is each unit will have one parking space out front,
there you go.
and then there'll be those 8 that are towards the rear.
Correct.
There were some issues about easing the curb into where there's no curb. And then there was another issue that I think probably isn't yours to solve, but it's widening the road and then turning it into a very narrow road.
Well, that's just something we got to work out with Lester, because we're submitting construction drawings to him. So what we're doing is, what part of the city standard is to improve your whole half width, plus if there wasn't anything on the other side, it's like, so there's 27 foot of pavement, but since there's pavement on the other side, but if you do your half width, and you got to do it all the way up in front of the property. And then the reason you see that little piece of jog there is just because that's what's there. So when we get with the city, we'll just have to work out transitioning into that and what Mike and Lester want to do there.
In essence, this will probably be removed. Then it'll be redone to match up with where it's.
So is that's an older curb that doesn't necessarily sit
Yeah,
on the
that's existing.
outer easement then?
Yeah,
It was built to where the asphalt was, not to where the easement extended.
Correct.
Who foots the bill on that?
Well, it's not
I mean, it's not you.
Yeah.
Does
We
the
do.
city put the bill on that one? Oh, goody.
Does the irrigation ditch, does it carry some stormwater too?
It's all for that,
Boilers.
we're gonna have our own storm drainage, system. It's not gonna carry storm drainage. The irrigation is for that. What's that place called across
Spring, the warm spring to
The
the
warm springs,
boilers.
yeah. Is that what it's called, Warm Spring?
Warm spring, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Carl.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Carl?
Well, the boilers mainstream comes under a different culvert. When you park at the boilers, there's kind of that grassy area and then another culvert. That's the one that comes through to there. And so they may call it a different name than the boilers.
This one's running full time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm sure it's used through town because it
Yeah.
ties into the irrigation system.
Well, this one comes in splits. It splits right there. So it comes underneath the freeway and splits and then it goes.
I think
It,
you're right.
it goes southwest, southeast.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
It's an interesting area to say the least.
Yeah, it is an interesting area. It was a lot of fun playing around up there when nobody was up there.
Kind of like those old photos of New York
City, Yeah.
The street, called the Typhoon.
Yeah.
Just a small.
This is probably the spring they used to use for drinking water.
Mhm. Any other questions, comments? I guess I'm ready to entertain a vote then.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the preliminary plat for Silverado Townhomes located approximately 190 west and 300 north with the conditions as outlined.
Thank you.
I second that.
I have a motion and a second.
Bellis and I.
Segmiller, nay.
Granger, aye.
Okay, that passes 3-1. Thank you. Item 6, resolutions. Consideration to approve a resolution setting the property tax levy for Washington City fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2016. Carrie Wheelwright.
Mayor, council, I am here with the certified property tax rate as proposed by the county for Washington City for the upcoming year. What the proposed rate has been proposed as is 0.001397. That is actually down just a little bit from what it was a year ago. A year ago, we were at 0.001448. The reason, of course, for that is that we've had more building that's gone on in the county or in the city, and so as a result, we have taxable property values that are higher. What the purpose of the property tax is to provide us with a steady source of revenue from that particular source, and so that's why we've seen that levy go down just slightly for this year. So it will provide us with about $180,000 more in revenue than what we received a year ago based on what the property values are and with this particular proposed property tax rate. Questions?
Questions?
I asked that the council consider the resolution to ratify the property tax rate as proposed by Washington County.
I will move that the council approve the resolution setting the property tax levy as presented tonight and is set by Washington County.
Second.
A motion and a second.
Granger, aye.
Segmiller, aye.
Nice and I.
Bellis and I.
Okay, that one's approved. Excuse me. Item B, consideration to approve a resolution setting the property tax levy for Washington City Special Service District in Coral Canyon for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2016. Carrie?
This, of course, is the Coral Canyon area out there, and the proposed property tax rate out there is unchanged. It is 0.003. It has been that since the Special Service District was put into effect several years ago, and has remained in that particular situation for this period of time. The county has some concerns about the property tax rate because it actually gives us an opportunity to collect more revenue than what the debt service is on that Special Service District. So there may be a problem, they feel like, with the state tax commission. We did give them an explanation to the state tax commission as to why we had maintained it at 0.003 last year. They accepted that, but I fully believe that we probably will get the opportunity to explain ourselves again, because we do have to present them with what the debt service is on this particular special service district. But as it stands right now, we as a city have decided that we needed to keep the tax rate there for various reasons. One of them being that we no longer have that floor underneath us that we had with Suncor, where they would guarantee the debt service payment if we did not collect fully on the property taxes. So even though we may be over collecting, what the proposal is that we will use that money down the road to pay that bond off early in that special service district. So that's why we have maintained and asked the county to maintain a 0.003. So
Is that a restricted fund that we can't spend on anything
that
else?
is correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Then I ask that the council consider the resolution to adopt the Coral Canyon Special Service District property tax rate at 0.003.
Who gets the interest from investments of that money for Coral Canyon?
That goes into that fund and is also part of the restricted fund. So whatever interest is in there will be used to retire the debt service.
Okay, thank you.
Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution setting the property tax levy for Washington City Special Service District and Coral Canyon.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Ellis and I.
Rice and I.
Seg Miller, aye.
Granger, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Approved. Thank you, Carrie. Consideration, item C, to approve a resolution adopting the 2017 fiscal year budget. Kimberly Roosh.
Mayor and council, it's great to come before you tonight and to be able to wrap up this budget process for the season we've been in. As you know, we've met quite regularly over the past 6 months. With this current budget, it's been available for review by our public since it was accepted by the council on April 27th. And then we also held a public hearing on May 11th for additional feedback and comment. And then to this point, just been waiting for the final certified tax rate from the county so that we could make sure we set the revenues at what the certified tax rate would be. So we're ready. We're before you now. The total budget for the 2017 fiscal year is $46,980,654.
So that's down over $1 million.
It is from the original tentative budget. It's about almost 1.4 million down.
Kimberly, what questions or concerns have the public come to you or city staff during the review period?
I have not had any. We did have one citizen that came and spoke during the public hearing, which was Crest Staley, and at that time he wanted to just know more about some of the capital projects that were outlined, but I have not received any feedback from the
Mr.
citizen.
Wheelwright or Mr. Carter had any others?
I will mention that one of the things that Kimberly's done such a good job of is we have several citizens within the community that she often uses that have shown interest in times past in our budget. She has often shared things with regards to our budget and how we do things and gotten their input. So she's actually been very proactive to try to go out and solicit.
Yeah. And I appreciated Crest Staley's comments. I think we did our best to address those, and I think he felt like he left with more answers than he came with. So
I just got a quick question. So we're, like I stated a minute ago, initially we were at 48 million and change. Now we're down just under 47 million. Just for reference, what was last year's budget?
Last year's, I'm actually going to pull this up really quick. Last year's actual combined total budget is it's 42,789,099. However, that's year-end actuals after audit, and it goes through a conversion. So all of your capital expenses have been removed from that total. So
Because it seemed to me it was 52 or 53.
Yeah,
oh, I'm sorry.
54
Are you
with
thinking
capitals.
for 2016, our current year,
Yes.
or okay? So our current year Our year-end estimate for the current year is 51,365,543.
So we're down 4 million from current year.
Yeah, it's basically a change in capital. So we finished
By not
the
building
construction of the
police station
Sullivan
this season.
Park, the police
Right.
station, which were
Okay.
large sums of money that were coming through.
Okay.
Yes.
We have the debt service associated with that 4 million. It'll be with us for a while.
Yeah.
But that's how we have to do it.
Thanks,
That's
Kimberly.
the-
Any other questions for her? Not, I'll entertain a motion to approve or,
Mayor, I want to thank staff. I think they do a great job on budgets, and I think the rewards that we've received reflect that. We've spent hours and hours talking about this, so I don't, unless other council members want to go through the nitty-gritty details, I don't have that desire tonight.
I think we have a resolution
Okay.
ready.
Mayor, I'll make the motion that the council approve a resolution adopting the 2016-2017 fiscal year budget with a total budget amount of $46,980,654.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Granger, aye.
Seg Miller, aye.
Nice night.
Bellis tonight.
All right, that's approved. We'll move on to item D, consideration to approve a resolution opening and amending the 2015-2016 fiscal year budget.
Okay, so this is to close out and finalize this current fiscal year, which will be ending on June 30th. The same in terms of the estimates of where we were prepared have been available since the April 27th meeting. We also held a public hearing on this on May 11th as well. The final year-end estimate is $51,365,543.
What
I'd
is
like
the
to-
amendment that we're considering as part of this opening, Kimberly?
So part of what I drafted and prepared with the packet this time was the things that had changed between when we presented the original year-end estimate as part of the tentative budget compared to where we finished up tonight. Part of that is an increase to the general fund, but that increase is associated with some grants. We received about $68,000 from IHC that was for a grant for a Project Lifesaver program that the police department is administering. And then we also went ahead and increased what our year-end estimate of revenue coming in related to the solid waste district. We turned around, we had to pay that out. And so there were some adjustments that were made because this is our first year for recycling and so forth, to account for where we really thought that we would be at year end and account to spend that money by paying it to the district. So those were the increases associated for that on the general fund. We had about $167,000 in capital project type expenses. That was for the 3650 South project, where we just estimate that the year-end items coming in will be need to be increased to cover those. We had the final estimates for the Sullivan Park, which along with the bonding, we had out-of-pocket costs that we covered. And so there was $118,000 there. We reduced the water fund by $660,000, which was a reduction related to a capital project item. And then we had a reduction for the power fund of about $1 million from the original year-end estimate, but that reduction actually brings the power fund back in line with the original budget. So at the end, their original year-end estimates within about $22,000 of our original proposed budget at the beginning of the fiscal year. So we did make those adjustments.
I was going to mention that one of the things we ask our departments to try to target when we evaluate this too is original and final budget. And we really try to encourage that to be within a 5% range or less. And that's pretty good. I mean, when they can do that, and I don't know where we're at, I'm not going to ask Kimberly to come up with that number, but that's what our goal is to try to keep the final budget number as close as we can to the original number. And it's not perfect, of course. It's not a perfect science, but I think they do a pretty good job with that. And I just wanted to let you know that that's a goal we try to give our departments.
And we did have an amendment that we typically do mid-year. So we did bring to you about March when we brought some adjustments for the current fiscal year as well. So the budget is designed, again, you're setting it as an estimate, but it's designed to be a working tool throughout the year so that we are, appropriating. So as part of this too, I think that we were able to add additional money at the end of 2016 towards fund balance beyond what we had originally anticipated. So at the end of this year, right now, we're up in about $450,000 range is where we think we'll be. With the 2017 budget that you just adopted, we actually also, originally with the tentative budget, we had budgeted revenues that were exactly as our expenditures were coming in with a certified tax rate that allowed us to have about $130,000 surplus that goes directly towards fund balance reserves. So
Thank you.
we've done well at kind of working on those. Correct.
Thank you, Kimberly. Any other questions, comments, or discussion?
Well, again, just appreciation for the hard work.
Thank you.
I move that we approve the resolution opening and amending the 2015-2016 fiscal year budget.
A motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second.
Belliston, aye.
Price and I.
Seg Miller, aye.
Granger, aye.
Thank you. Thank you, council. Thank you, Kimberly. Item 7, report from assigned committees. I did notice we have a young man out there in the Scouts. What Scout trip you from? In Washington or St. George? Eagle Project, getting close. Do you have any questions for? Do you have any questions for us?
I've seen that look every time I've asked it in my house.
We appreciate you coming. We do. We appreciate you coming. It's probably a merit badge you're trying to get, right? Good. Well, if our scout doesn't have any questions and no reports from assigned committees.
I have a quick
Okay.
report. Planning Commission had their opening, I don't know what you call it, invitational. Visioning piece was well organized. I would like to have seen a lot more come, but there were enough there to represent each of the areas of the city and give input. And Councilman Bellison was also there. Were you there? Sure. Okay. I think
Any big ideas? or
I
good
think my
ideas?
personal opinion is some of that stuff we need a lot of time on. You don't talk about zoning in a meeting like that and get into it deeply, and you probably don't draw all the trail systems and the bike paths that it would be nice to connect. And so you do get a feel for, I did get a feel for how interested some of the citizens were in just good planning and taking care of our city. And, I was positive, I think, the ones that were there. Appreciate all the work and preparation that went into that. And there's a lot more work to do, so.
Anything?
I think the other thing is on the legislative committee, Jeff, maybe you want to say something about that meeting yesterday. That's appropriate to sit there. It's something that
I appreciated
financially
the
will
email that
concern
was
us.
sent
Sure.
out, very informative and
It was just goofy. It was goofy how that worked out. And because of the timing of that, probably some of the adjusted language we had on the resolution, we were in terms of going to the Washington County Commission on the other part of House Bill 362. I'll be running past council signal tonight because I added some just based on the fact that this occurred. So what occurred is House Bill 362 put two different sources of potential funding for roadway infrastructure in 2015. The first one was an increase in the tax rate for gasoline, which went into effect in 2016. As it was discussed, what would occur would be in these roadway B and C funding, there'd be an increase, that increased tax rate had been increased to B and C road funding for counties and for cities. And it was about 17% we had seen an increase, which has been long overdue, and which is why the legislature supported it and why all of our local elected state officials supported that bill. And so what occurred as they started to implement it was the counties, the Association of Counties, came in 2016 with an amendment to the way that that was calculated, supposedly just to adjust for a simple calculation method, which would make it fair for some of the rural counties in that funding. Bottom line is what we found out is the funding started coming through. Massive reduction in what we were receiving on that tax increase. I mean, the tax increase went into effect and money went out for funding of roads. Unfortunately, Washington City, for example, received about half of what we were expecting to receive first quarter, and Kimberly had to go back and adjust the 2017 budget based on that. Some of the rural counties had like a 90% increase on what they had previously gotten from those B&C road funding. But that doesn't even tell the story. What they had like 300% and 400% increases on what was estimated to be received under those. So having said that, it was quite a shakeup for everybody when it came through.
Did the legislature understand that is how it would be calculated? As I read, and I couldn't figure out where, clearly that our lobbyists and the league all missed it.
Yeah.
And I intend to send them a request for refund for any fees we paid for that service.
I'm thinking somebody.
But clearly it can't have been known and then gets calculated and all of a sudden we're surprised. Somebody somewhere had to have understood
Well,
that this is what the calculation
I will
was.
say this is an oddball thing too, and I just read this too, Councilman, that the fiscal analyst group who typically evaluates this did not do this bill. And I mean, that came from and that's just an odd thing to me because almost all bills have the fiscal analyst department, but
they have time to do it, and this seemed to have been a last minute.
What would be?
Well, the thing is, it didn't, from the fiscal analyst standpoint, there was no change, which there wasn't a change. The difference is the way you divide it up, the monies were massively different. And what
Is our county considered a rural county?
No, and if you will take a look at, and I sent these to you, and I can print these out if you'd like. That first 2 pages of the attachment I sent to you from the league is really pretty helpful on showing you what occurred generally. But then if you go to just the list on the back that you'd all seen from last year, kind of the breakdown of what we would receive, for example, Washington County, and then broke down all of our cities. But the new one I sent you actually will show you, for example, and I'll just grab it really fast. Anything with the double asterisk by it are these, and they don't even refer to them as rural, but that's really what they are. What they tried to do is make sure their funding didn't drop below a 1997 level. Whatever occurred in the 10 minutes of public dialogue and committee meetings, which is an unbelievably small amount of time, nobody anticipated until the money started to come out. For example, Miller County, you'll see on the chart I gave you, the one I printed that was attached to my email, kind of a double asterisk. Those are the ones that are the special or protected ones, which the hold harmless entities, which basically meant they weren't going to lose money under this new calculation, under this new road tax. But in effect, what it did is, for example, Miller County, their estimated increase previously was supposed to be, their previous increase was supposed to be, Miller, was supposed to be potential new $400,000 they were supposed to get in new tax revenue from the increase in the tax bill. In fact, what they received was $2,200,000. So that's where big chunks of those monies went. There were massive amounts of monies that got redistributed, and so the money didn't go away. I've never seen anything like this ever occur.
10 minutes knew enough to specialize, pick out 11 rural counties that they wanted to take care of.
Yeah, and I could give.
In 10 minutes.
Does this have?
Well, this
something to do
was the Association of Counties was the one that ran this. Supposed just correction of a calculation error in the past, And I can just tell you, I've never attended a meeting with the League of Cities that was just so odd and so, massive amounts of money were adjusted. St. George City, their difference that they received. So ours changed, let's see. Oh, ours changed about $70,000 on what we anticipated. St. George's changed about $250,000 difference. And that's anticipated funding, because we know what that funding is going to be. It's pretty easy to estimate with those. And Kimberly took those immediately and adjusted them even before this came up, which I was surprised Kimberly got it that fast. I mean, we just had the meeting this week, and Kimberly adjusted those, and I'm sure Mike was happy about it. Mike's always glad when he finds he loses money out.
How does this calculation, as I look at Washington County, so after the adjustment, I'm looking at the increase from 2015 column, which is basically trying to say after this amendment that modified the calculation, the increase in this year from 2015, the county went 18% increase. So they didn't seem to have much harm.
No, and in fact, but what that shows what the increase, the overall increase was from the 2015. I ran some of the numbers from what it should have been when the calculation hadn't been adjusted.
Before the House Bill.
So the county actually received 10,000 less than they were anticipating.
So I guess the question though is still, how come that increase over 2015 percentages is so variable? For example, the county 18%, Washington 7%, Rockville 79%.
Why did Millard get so
much? What?
Because they were Millard County was one of those counties, and part of it is the fact that this calculation dealt with dirt roads. I mean, part of it was because who has more mileage on dirt roads, because some of the calculations
So it has
for
to deal
BNC
with
road fund went to
road
that.
type as well.
They are. I mean, and I got to tell you, in an hour and a half, 2-hour meeting, not a lot was answered based on the fact that we just supposedly were going to adjust this, just make this slight adjustment to fix something that just wasn't quite right. So I think that was presented to the legislators. I think most of our legislators, especially anybody on that committee, were awfully surprised. I'm not going to say embarrassed but I mean, that's a tremendous amount of money based on what was represented to the legislature as being just really just a minor
So somehow
calculation oversight.
it's really the county commissions that got all the money. The cities in these 11 counties did
No,
worse,
yeah, it
did
didn't
worse than
affect them much.
Washington City.
You're exactly right, man. And that would make
So it's-
sense if it were dirt roads, because typically as you think of county land, it tends to be
It's
the
dirt roads.
it's places where people said we didn't,
Does
the
this
place where
have-
people say we want to be a city, typically you got the paved roads already.
These
There's
are
those
also
other
the-
places that don't want to be.
These are also the counties where I know the state and the counties are fighting a lot of I
Mhm.
forget the number, the 277 litigation.
Yeah.
Is this possibly somehow related to that? And
I don't think it has any effect on those because those aren't
Those-
considered to be
those
roads
funds.
that we take care of.
they're roads that we want to be able to take care of.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Under-
we take care, that's
under
the
the law.
argument. The argument is we have taken care of them even from a grading and blading standpoint. So under the old laws of whatever, they should be
1976,
under
yeah.
county jurisdiction and the feds are fighting out the RS 247.
But that doesn't mean pick up what occurred here. I mean, I think everybody, I've never, 25 years, I've never seen a meeting like this. That was just the oddest meeting. And the reality is that everybody recognizes the fact that this has got to be fixed. It's got to be fixed. It's got to be fixed fast. I mean, a lot of effort went into, a lot of, from a political standpoint, it was a courageous position to take by our state legislature to finally say, we've got to finally adjust gasoline taxes because that's where we get our funding for our roadways in our cities. And we're just not keeping up with them. And general funds have to make up for it. So those funds that we need to cover everything else are being taken just to keep potholes, to fill potholes and stuff. So, and then for this to happen right after, I think just, I don't think anybody was real happy about this other than maybe the Millard counties and Kanab. I'll say Kane County came out. Kane County was one of those counties, which probably makes sense.
Which connecting to Councilman Segnar will help them pay for the lawsuits they filed with the federal government. for years.
Got a few.
So having said that, we're certainly, this needs to be fixed. It needs to be fixed fast.
So where do we go to do that?
Well, I think it's not, but correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think it's gonna be, they're not calling a special session, so it'll be next legislative session, right?
I think it's so new, they don't know what they're gonna do. I'll be honest, I just
What's
think,
Okay.
I just don't know what's gonna
Nice
happen.
if it was a special session.
I think the fact it's a general, it's a general election year, I don't think it helps, it's gonna help anybody at this
So what we
point.
can do now is just be angry and just move on, basically, right?
Yeah, and I'll be happy to be collectively angry for
Well,
everyone if you'd like.
The good news is, as was mentioned, we've adjusted for it in the budget.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff.
So Kimberly got right on, Kimberly and Mike got right on that. Mike was first to offer to throw money back into everybody else's pile, I think. Mike, just the way Mike is.
Throw a bunny back and Jeff.
So, and we can get, and anybody that wants more information, we can. The graph really helped a lot. If you pull that up, and and I printed a few of them in case you want, but it's interesting to take a look at anyway, just to see the numbers, because you guys went to a lot of effort, I think, to really just find out, you guys are really, really hesitant about supporting anything that even starts to look like an increase in tax. You guys are an elected official group, and you were on this one also.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. Any other? Not, we'll ask city manager to offer a report.
Okay, thanks. Councilman Segnar, that is how we get our Class C too, is it's allocated based on surface. So gravel, dirt, or I don't even think it's dirt, gravel and chip seal, is that separate? And pavement, okay, so that's kind of how we
That
get.
explains why there's no real correlation.
Correct.
Every city has different.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, some of those bigger counties, Davis County, I noticed that they had very little funds coming from those, period, on those PNCs.
I was just going to mention also on the general plan, I will echo what Councilwoman Granger said, but also we are looking at, just so you know, I've been in discussion with Drew about possibly adding a couple more of those open visioning, whatever you're calling them. It might delay the process a little bit, but I think this is the time that we do this right and get as much involvement as possible. Might adjust the contract a little bit, but I just think it's worth doing the best we can to get as many people.
One of the suggestions that came out that got a lot of yays was just the idea of maybe making some of those more local to the neighborhoods.
Yeah, so what we've talked about just briefly, and it's all been kind of cursory discussion, but we've talked about going up into the Green Spring areas with one of them, maybe using the clubhouse or whatever. We've done that before, going down to Riverside, down in the fields, those type of things. But we are talking about extending out a little bit of those public processes. And I think it'll be good for us to, again, this is a document that lasts us, the last one was 10 years. I hope we don't go this long this next time, but between 5 and 10 years. And so it's worth doing right when we have the chance to do it. And it legitimizes the process when we can get as many citizens involved in it as possible. Slurry project's been completed now. I'm just going to touch on two quick things and then one. We have completed the trail on the hellhole all the way up to what's now going to be the trailhead. So you remember we had that kind of blank space, that's all done now. And
Construction work is the trailhead part.
yes, but Sitler will be coming in and doing, this minor trailhead anyway for some parking and some gravel and that up there to make it look more like a trailhead. So that's underway. The one item that I wanted to just mention probably in detail is we'll be coming to the council. I think, Mike, probably we'd like to, if you're prepared, I think we ought to try to do that next council meeting. I think we're in a position now that we kind of know where we want to go. Well, hopefully, we're getting pricing. Hopefully, we're getting some pricing right now. We want to talk to the council where we want to go with Telegraph. We've got enough data now that we've now got some suggestions on what we should do. There's a couple of suggestions, just so you know. The suggestion range from about 1.4 to, that's the high end, to hopefully, we haven't got this one back yet, but hopefully around 800 And that's a combination of both kind of bastioning or bulwarking the bottom of that hill, because they now know that's kind of how it's working, or also tying back with a wall and some rods and cables back into the other wall, similar to kind of how they built the Pacific Coast Highway, that direction. So we're looking at that, and so hopefully we'll have that. We'll shoot for the next work session of getting in front of you and talking about those options, and hopefully we'll be in that position to be able to do that. And then we want to begin rapidly on this issue and try to get that taken care of as rapid as possible. We think this certainly constitutes an emergency and a hazard, a safety issue for the community, and so the faster we can work on it. We wanted to do this, and I know it's been frustrating. As a matter of fact, it's been interesting because part of it's interesting as we go through this kind of scoping with the general plan. Some of the responses, what is some of the question, one of the questions that, we put on the survey, but also what we've talked to other people about is what are some of the areas that, make Washington not as attractive? The breakdown of Telegraph Road is actually ranking high. I mean, they consider that, that's almost a permanent type thing, as they probably should, because it's been that way. And again, for the benefit of the fact that we have the cameras here tonight, the city has been as proactive as we could be as we've analyzed and wanted to find the right fix.
So the process on that is we would go in and bulwark or whatnot, monitor for a while just to see.
No, I think at this point, they're strong enough on the data points that this is the fix.
They fix it, we go and repave and get that fixed up. And
yeah. So, but it's taken us this long to watch the movement. We've had to put, well, and that's the reason. You're exactly right. I mean, our goal has been to not just rush in and do something that even the engineers were saying we're not quite sure yet. We're not sure where the vertical and horizontal movements are coming from and those type of things. We've had the data points on long enough that they're as comfortable, I guess, as you can get them to be, to say this is the fix. The only other alternative beyond that is for us to just continue to monitor and see if our conclusion or their conclusion comes to something different down the road. But they seem pretty confident. And quite frankly, Mike, who's been handling ours? Has it been Len? We want to have them here at the work session to answer any questions that the council might have. Let's do that. I think the more information you have, the better position you'll be in.
This is a little different, no, but you said something. You've always done this, but will we have those survey results available to us at some point?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we have some preliminary stuff now, and I can have Mike email that out to you. It's a lot of little, it's actually quite interesting. You'll find it interesting. It's lots of little kind of triangles or whatever where they put the data points on, and then you look at a graph and see the movement on those data points.
Oh, sorry. I was asking about the survey results on the general plan.
Oh, yes, as a matter of fact. So the plans on the general plan, and I have not confirmed this with Drew, will go as long as Drew and Don wants to go with this. But right now, I'm anticipating that a minimum of 2 weeks, Drew, on the survey.
Well, I mean, 3.5 to 4 weeks.
Okay, there you go. So we'll run up the full 4 weeks, however they want it. And we've had great response. Again, thank you, because I'll bring this up, and I know we did transition a little bit, so I hope everybody can keep hold of us. Not only does the survey panel have these surveys, but you will be able to access them. We'll have a link off our Facebook, off Twitter account, and off the main page of WashingtonCity.org. Anybody can go in and click on that and fill out. It's one of our lengthier surveys. We apologize for that, but it's probably one of the most comprehensive surveys we have to have as part of this. So but if they can't do it all in one sitting, it'll store their answers, and they can come back and start where they left off. But I'll be honest with you, it went out last night, and we've had a couple hundred households respond already.
That's great.
So I think people are quite interested in this. So anyway, I think Mayor, I think that's it.
That's enough. That's enough, is that what you're saying?
I got a question for you. I sent out an email on the 2nd about Judge Bunnell's
Yeah, thanks. Well, that's good. So what we're going to do on that, there's a little bit of a change on that. And the reason there's been a change is that the state cannot accommodate that schedule that I sent to you. And we knew it was going to be tight anyway. The reason the state can't accommodate the schedule is because the state appoints the nominating committee, or at least a number of nominating committee members, not all of them, but most of them. And they actually disbanded the nominating committee. So they have to, they have to go through and go through their own appointment.
Council Starkey was on some form of a nominating.
Yeah, it was.
That's the that was the 5th district, yeah. But I anticipate, since the justice court's a little different, I anticipate kind of the same thing, but it's gonna be on a countywide basis, so somebody will be selected on it, be placed on that. It just seems a little odder because there's so many from the outside. It's a different process of getting that committee though, but that group's an important committee in terms of just selecting those candidates who have applied. However, the nice thing is that we've learned now is that through the process of the amendments to the process of selecting justice court judges, it has come back to the mayor with the consent of the city council does select our justice court judge, which was the thing we were most concerned about, was losing control of that. Has to be a licensed attorney either way though now.
So a couple of things with regards to that. So they cannot accommodate the August. We would have never seated a new judge prior to the end.
No, that's fine. You by your email, you said that we were going to have it on June 22nd.
Yes, that's right. But let me finish
And it wasn't
because
on,
this
so.
is important because and I'm glad you brought it up. So because we can't accommodate that, and then the next training is not until January after his term. Actually, the court administrator's office says that is fine. You can continue to have Judge Bunnell, if you choose, serve as a interim judge, just like we would if he went on vacation, which we've done before. And so we informed, it was funny because we informed Judge Bunnell, we said, well, more than likely that'll happen. So I was going on vacation for 2 weeks in January. And he said, well, you were, but we were just joking. But anyway, here's the issue that will come up, Councilman. So we've scheduled this, I'm scheduling this, and it'll have to not be a Tuesday night because Tuesday nights are court nights.
So we posted?
No, not yet because of
So
the
the time
timing is
hasn't
all.
run
Yeah, the
yet.
timing's all. But here's the reason we want to get with you is there has been some discussion in years past that in regards to whether we want to continue with the justice court or not as well. And matter of fact, just so you know, we're one of the largest justice courts in the state. And now most of our areas around here don't even have justice courts anymore. They send them over to the county courts, justice courts. We now feel like at least we ought to come back to the council and just have that discussion wherever it may go. I think it would be fair to have Judge Bunnell as part of that discussion. And so what we were proposing to you, and we'll just bounce some dates off of you, is a lunch one day that we could try to get all of you to come in for a lunch hour in which we can have this discussion. Of course, it would be posted and open to the public if they wanted to come. And then we could accommodate Judge Bunnell. We could just have a general discussion with regards to that. If the feelings of the council is no, we want to continue moving forward with the justice court, then we've got lots of time still to do all that we've done. But the schedule, as I laid out originally, is not on tap now because we can't make that. That was a long answer to a short
And
question.
the state
Yeah.
posts all that stuff, we don't.
Right.
They're in charge of it.
Okay.
Did we resolve anything on that? We just turn it over to you and you give us some
You'll
dates.
see what I'd like, if you're okay with that, you'll see
Okay.
some proposed dates.
Okay.
You'll see it. We'll get another email with kind of an updated schedule on that.
Updated schedule, and then also proposed dates for us to just come together with the judge and talk about the justice courts generally.
Okay.
And
Thank
we're
you.
about to put like a 10 or 12 page PDF. That'll keep you all interested in it.
Right. Okay, Jeff, thanks. Okay. Any other items to discuss? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting tonight.
Move to adjourn.
Second that.
Thank you.
Ellis and I.
Nice night.
Seg Miller, aye.
Granger,
All
aye.
right. Thank you. And all of you have a great evening. And thank you for coming.